try to turn around this CO2 reduction into a green growth opportunity. And the question is then, how do you incentivize and do that? Help rural areas find new value in things that they already know how to do, and then add some new tools into the tool chest to do that. Helicopter view of the whole area. So you can see all of the background. It's just green fields, there's water, and there's some windmills, and that's it. So it's really a classic rural outlying area based on agriculture. And so coming into an area like this, what do we have as resources? We have biomass, we have wind, we have water, and we have what people can do in the area. They're very good at agriculture, but they're also good at running their businesses, at doing trades, at finding new ideas and working together, so the cooperative idea. So we use all of the resources and competencies in any one area and turn those into green growth opportunities using new value streams. We'll take the next slide. We determined that we would utilize the wind and solar energy on site. So we're developing a wind and solar park built specially to drive this green growth. And then we convert it into industrial processes, and that requires some storage exercises. So you have to convert and store energy appropriate for those green industries. And then finally, we're doing something relatively unique, which is a tailor-made infrastructure for sharing and redistributing different forms of energy. And that's electrical, it's heating, it's gas, it's also water. So how do you collectively treat energy as one unified entity and make sure there's no waste whatsoever? And that requires a new infrastructure and a new way of putting that puzzle together. Next slide, please. So this is the view of the site in a 3D model. You'll see some recognizable things like a very large biogas plant. Obviously, in agricultural area, you have a lot of manure and a lot of waste products from agriculture. We use that for biogas. We have a waste handling facility, so the whole region there, we bring waste streams into that and try to activate that into new processes. Just above that, we have Quantafuel. That's a brand new process called pyrolysis. It's a technology from Norway, actually, which is now being developed at a factory level here in GreenLab in Skive. And that's a circular plastic industry. So plastic, which normally go to landfill or incineration, gets gasified and then reused in the plastic industry. So it gets shipped down to Germany, in fact, to make new plastics. And as you all know, you've played with the Lego blocks. Soon they'll all be very green circular plastics in the Lego blocks. Right next to that, Danish marine protein, or in everyday language, the starfish factory. This is a fantastic story. We have from ballast water from ships, there came an invasive species of these big starfish eating up all of the shellfish in the fjords in the area. We scoop them up, half of the amount of starfish every year, about 40,000 tons, and we dry them out and turn them into proteins, organic proteins for animal feed. We also use seaweed, we use shellfish of different types. Lots of the waste products from the fishing industry can be turned into proteins. And what happens there, we get to reduce imports of soya and land use chains in South America, in China, and other parts of Asia. So it has a fantastic impact on the local circular economy, provides organic, locally sourced proteins for animal feeds. Right next to that, we'll be feeding a grass protein factory as well. So 4 types of grasses can grow the area and provide proteins during the summer. So it's a year-round protein production. Just next to that, then we have the P2X area, and many of you heard about P2X, hydrogen production from water using green energy. But what does the hydrogen get used for? Many large sites today, they just want to export the hydrogen and create a new commodity export for their local economy. But this doesn't help green growth there where you are. So looking at place-based green growth, how do you apply that green hydrogen? Well, just across the side here, this desal process, that's one of those where you use agricultural waste in a pyrolysis process to create jet fuels to solve the aviation problem. The nice thing is, half of that process turns into carbon capture, a biochar, which gets returned to agricultural use to increase soil quality. The other half, you need the green hydrogen to make the jet fuels. So this symbiosis, this co-location, is creating new jobs, new growth, new industries in an area which was just green fields beforehand. So it's a fantastic example of using a cluster effect, using new tools in the tool chest, but also applying good old-fashioned biomass knowledge in the area. Green High Scale is an extension of the P2X. It's at about 12 megawatts today in association with the Danish Agency, but we have just received EU funding for 30 million euros to do a 100 megawatt site. That means we can drive more growth in these other synergy effects like the pyrolysis process, turn agricultural waste into usable value streams. And just above to the top on wasted is a circular fiberboard process, taking paper and cardboard waste, which normally goes to incineration or landfill, and turning that into fiberboards, which are high density. It's a new nanofiber technology. We actually attracted this factory from England to Denmark because of the cluster effect. So we can provide green heat and lots of green energy to make this fiberboard sustainable. Take the next slide, please. Just tap 2 times. It's remote clicking. One more time. And we'll keep going. I think we'll just go to the next slide. Time's running fast. So how do we do this? One of the most important parts is to go to the local stakeholders first and foremost, then mapping out the resources, and then looking at the demand opportunities for new resource and value streams. So there's a whole mapping process, which we now have experience with. We're trying to package that so other people can use it, both in Norregio and OECD, working also with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, about how to propagate this solution for rural areas. Next slide, please. So for those of you a little more diagram-oriented, here's your version. But really the important thing is we're not an island. We go to the outside world, and all of these are commercial contracts. So it's not a pilot demonstrator, it's commercial scale development. We have over 80 megawatts of energy over here connected directly to our Symbiose net, put into the green industrial complex, and these are all basically new products which have contracts, many of them pre-sold before the production is going in motion. So you have jet fuels, naphtha, proteins, methane, methanol, and hydrogen, all on commercial contracts today. And that process is self-sustaining. So it attracts more markets, more market development, and more scale-up, which means we can finance backwards into scaling up of the factories. So commercially driven market-making exercise in a collective experience in a rural area. Next slide, please. It's pretty complicated, but our ecosystem is complicated, and we don't deny that. So we take complication and look it in the face and say, how do we fix it? And this is number one. If you just look at the positive community effect, everything else gets a lot easier. So how do we get local anchoring? How do we create long-term green growth? How do we find local sources and uses of new value streams? Then the rest just seems to fall into place quite nicely. Of course, we have to do your regular, MBA work on the competitive advantage and incentives, but that's just a translation from number one. It has to be green, of course, and continuous learning and development. And that's one of the things groups like this can do. We're all learning from each other at this session, and that's really important at this moment to accelerate. Next slide, please. Social effects. We are investing about 100 million kronas, and the result is about 30x return in local foreign direct and investment on this site. If we go to 20, it's still about 30 return. So the more we invest in the infrastructure and putting this together, the more impact there is for the social development. Next slide. Analysis of quick returns. 70,000 hours of local work hours, contracts for local entrepreneurs and builders. 60 positions today will soon be a few hundred, just in 2.5, 3 short years. Next slide, please.
Christopher, you need to wrap up, please.
And the secondary effects, the hotels. This is just tripling, quadrupling the secondary effects in the area. So green growth in the area and putting everything together. And I think I'll stop there to the last slide so we can have the next presentation.
Thank you, Christopher, for this. I hope you can all hear me.